It's time for Justice for the People with Pastor Charles Bennett. Justice for the People, exploring issues involving corruption and injustices in the Tri-Cities. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and Pastor Bennett, and not necessarily those of the moderator, management, staff, or advertisers of WHAP. Here now is Pastor Charles Bennett and Justice for the People.
Along with used cars in a full maintenance area with trained mechanics and state-of-the-art equipment.
We're going to blow
Roundtree
this out
does
today.
all this by finance,
What I want
licensing,
to do
and even life insurance. Go check out
bring it back
Roundtree
in.
Pontiac GMC and
We
Mitsubishi
won't even
today.
talk about
That
the
phone
government.
number
We'll
is
talk about
733-8721.
why it's worthwhile buying from Roundtree right now.
Yeah, we'll touch on it a little bit.
I'll tell you, we'll do that today, the last
Trailer
15
outlet sales, the men and women of our military and veterans for their sacrifices
This
made
thing's
are
nasty.
keeping them in our thoughts
You
and
got
prayers
corruption, you got
during these
corruption,
trying times.
conspiracy, you got all kinds
America's
of
troops
stuff.
are fighting
And here's the
hard to
thing,
defend our
the
great
guys
country
are going
and keep
forward.
freedom alive
Hey,
worldwide.
they're fine,
This
they're not gonna have me as
military
competition,
tribute
I'm
from
like
Trailer Outlet in
competition.
District 10, the new home for RV parts and accessories. Give them a call, 733-0799. That's 733-0799. Serving the community with integrity and quality service since 1994.
Right, well, they're not
And you
complaining, they're getting rid
I
of good
want-
competition, he's happy.
I know it, and so you can go make a deal with him and get a car
Stand
much
by.
cheaper.
I have with me today my guest Floyd Francis from the Roundtree Pontiac business in Petersburg, Virginia. If you leave Colonial Heights and go across that really nice new bridge, the Martin Luther King Bridge, you run right up into Roundtree Pontiac, folks. Every person listening today, before we go off the air, I'm going to tell you why, if I had to buy a car, I'd buy it from a Roundtree Pontiac. Very, very simple, folks. They're in a position to bless you now more than the recognized, certified, corrupted dealerships, because the corrupted dealerships have had to sign on to situations that are absolutely contrary to good practical business sense, and they are going to be in a position where if they don't gouge you, they can't stay in business. Let me read you something here. The number to call today is 452-4999. But listen to this. This is exactly what's happened. This is exactly what's happened. You cannot legislate the poor into freedom by legislating the wealthy out of freedom. What one person receives without working for, another person must work for without receiving. The government cannot give anybody anything that the government does not first take away from somebody else. When half of the people get the idea that they do not have to work because the other half's going to take care of them, and when the other half gets the idea that it does no good to work because somebody else is going to get what they work for, that, my dear friend, is about the end of a nation. You cannot multiply wealth by dividing it. That was spoken by Adrian Rogers.
Oh, one of
A
my
great-
favorite preachers.
one-
He's
I agree with that
a
100%.
Baptist preacher, one of the nicest,
Great-
best speakers I've ever heard in my life.
Great Baptist preacher. And here's another thing. As a pastor, I really can't read this correctly, but it says over 5,000 years ago, Moses said to the children of Israel, pick up your shovel, mount your asses and camels, and I'll lead you into the promised land. Now, about 75 years ago, Roosevelt said, lay down your shovels, pick up your donkeys, and ride up a camel. This is the promised land. Now, Obama is going to steal your shovel, kick your donkeys, raise the price of Camel cigarettes, and mortgage the promised land. And listen, we have already gone into socialism when the government can take over 6,000 dealerships and say, we don't need 3,000. That's socialism, folks. Wake up and smell the coffee. 452-4999. What do you have to say about this?
Well, I've been dealing with Roundtree since I've been driving the car. I've worked there twice. I bought 3 cars in the last year and a half. a Jeep and two, a Honda and a Toyota.
Toyota.
Yeah, just bought a Toyota last April.
Off of their used car lot.
Off the used car lot, I bought a 2007. We got to come off showroom floor and saved about $3,000 compared to other dealerships around.
That's because
And
they're in the
excellent
right place
service.
to buy.
Excellent service. Anything you need, they got a service area that's unbelievable. Got all the state-of-the-art equipment, and they'll do you well. And the friendliest people, I go in there and make me a pot of coffee. I sit and talk with them, and with a call and just a whole bunch there, you know. And Danny and Grant, and that's the sons.
Neil.
And Neil, and Bruce Ely, he's from Hopewell. He runs the maintenance garage, and Chuck does all the insurance. And you'll recognize Chuck because he looks like Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, he looks almost like him. Anyway,
Francis is saying it's not over till it's over.
well, I don't think it's over yet either.
That's what
I just
keeps
can't
coming
believe
to
that-
me, is that if the 3,000 dealers got together, they should be able to walk in to some place and say, I demand my dealership back, or I want what I would have made off of this dealership for the next 10 years.
You're exactly right, Charles, and you were quoting some of Bible scripture there, and it brought a thought to my mind. When Jesus rode into Damascus, he didn't ride in on a white stallion. He rode in on a donkey or a mule. And my point is, you don't have to have a big building with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and bright lights to sell cars.
You don't have to be on 95.
No.
Yeah, and they've got so much overhead they can't give you a good deal. So I can go there and save money with your place.
My daddy always told me that he would rather have a good salesman standing outside in the rain underneath a tree than to have a bad one in a Taj Mahal.
That's right.
So that's my point. Your car's on the lot.
Well,
They're looking for an image, and
Well,
I
with your
understand that.
dealership, you don't have an F&I man there that when he can get you financed at 8 or 9 or 10% for a used car, he doesn't gouge you and get 23% out of you and keep the 13%. You're not gouging. There's no way a family dealership can stay in business gouging people.
You're exactly right. That happens. We get a loan rate, and say our buy rate is 5.5%. Something reasonable we feel like to charge somebody would be 5.9 or something like that. We don't charge those exorbitant rates and so forth. Now, if your credit history is not good now, you have to look at that also. You have to pay a higher rate. But no, we didn't stay in business for 52 years gouging people. And basically, in years past, years ago, we used to sell a lot of cars. But in this market you got now, Chrysler and General Motors being bankrupt, those products are not in demand as much now as they were in the past. So everybody's sales are off.
Well, everybody's sales are off, and that's what makes your service department, and that's what makes the way that you treat used cars, and the way you back them up, and the way you don't just the moment you ride it over the curb. I know it might be you've got 30 days, but 33 days later, transmission falls out about it. You're going to be taking a more serious look than the guy who believes that there's a sucker born every minute.